Have you ever wondered why people who are always nice often seem to be overlooked, undervalued, or even taken for granted? You might think being kind, agreeable, and accommodating will make people like and respect you. But what if it's doing the opposite? What if your niceness is actually sabotaging your relationships, your confidence, and your peace of mind? Let's be honest. Many of us were taught from a young age that being nice is a virtue, that if we keep others happy, avoid conflict, and make ourselves small, we'll be safe, accepted, and loved. But here's the harsh truth. People who are too nice often end up exhausted, resentful, and invisible. They become easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss, and easy to forget. Think about it. Have you ever agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid tension? Have you ever stayed silent when someone crossed a line because you didn't want to seem rude or confrontational? Or smiled through discomfort so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable? These moments might seem harmless on the surface, but over time, they chip away at your sense of self. This video is not about encouraging arrogance or cruelty. It's about reclaiming the middle ground, the space where kindness coexists with strength, and compassion doesn't come at the cost of your self-respect. Because being too nice isn't kindness. It's fear in disguise, and fear will never earn you the respect you truly deserve. We're going to explore what it really means to be too nice, how it shows up in your behavior, your relationships, your career, and your self-worth. We'll break down why people-pleasing is not the path to peace, why boundaries are not selfish, and how the Stoic philosophy can guide you toward becoming a person who is both kind and respected. You'll hear stories like Harold, the man who said yes so often that he lost control of his life, and Ted, who molded himself to be liked but lost his identity in the process. These aren't just cautionary tales, they're mirrors that might reflect your own patterns back to you. Most importantly, this video will give you tools, not just theory. You'll learn how to set boundaries that don't require you to explain yourself endlessly. You'll learn how to say no without guilt. And you'll discover how to carry yourself with quiet confidence, the kind that commands respect without raising your voice. But before we go deeper, ask yourself, are you tired of being the one who always adjusts, always bends, always compromises? Do you ever feel like you're being used more than you're being loved? And are you finally ready to draw the line, not out of anger, but out of self-respect? If so, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is about building the inner strength most people never talk about. It's about saying the hard truths you won't hear in polite society. It's about becoming someone who can be kind but never weak, compassionate but never spineless, respectful but never a doormat. This is not a motivational video. This is a wake-up call. It's time to stop living your life on mute, hoping people will notice your sacrifices. They won't. It's time to step up, speak up, and live with power. 1. When niceness becomes a weakness. Kindness is a virtue. But when kindness turns into chronic self-sacrifice, it crosses a dangerous line. Too often people wear their niceness like a badge of honor, thinking it's what makes them lovable or morally superior. But what they don't realize is that excessive niceness isn't always about being good. It's often about being afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of conflict, afraid that saying no will make people leave. This fear turns into a habit, and the habit becomes your personality. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You smile when you're hurting. And eventually, you forget who you were before you started molding yourself to please everyone around you. Let's talk about Harold, a classic example of what happens when niceness becomes self-neglect. Harold was the go-to guy. If someone needed a ride to the airport, Harold was there. If a co-worker needed help meeting a deadline, Harold stayed late. If a friend needed a favor, Harold dropped everything. Everyone loved Harold, but Harold hated his life. Behind the scenes, Harold was drowning. He hadn't pursued his passions in years. His health was declining. His marriage was strained, and yet he kept saying yes. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know how to say no. He believed that if he stopped being helpful, people would stop caring. He was convinced that his value came from his availability. Harold's story isn't rare. In fact, it's painfully common. So many people fall into the same trap, believing that the more they give, the more they'll be loved. But love built on self-abandonment isn't real love. It's dependency. And the sad irony is that the more you sacrifice yourself for others, the less they tend to appreciate it. Why? Because when you make yourself endlessly available, people stop seeing you as a person. They see you as a resource, something to be used, not respected. Your efforts become expected. Your sacrifices become invisible. And the more you give, the more they take, until you're empty and no one even notices. Being predictable is a hidden danger of being too nice. People know you won't push back. They know you'll always agree. They know you'll never stand your ground. That makes you easy to manage, easy to overlook, and easy to control. And no one respects what's easy to control. This isn't about turning into someone cold or unkind. It's about balance. It's about realizing that true kindness must include yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot respect others while consistently disrespecting your own limits. People admire strength, not servitude. They value boundaries, not blind compliance. When you show that you have standards, when you draw lines in the sand, when you protect your time and energy, you teach others how to treat you. You show them that your kindness is a gift, not a guarantee. One of the hardest truths to accept is that some people will only value you when you stop making yourself so accessible. And that's okay, because the people who truly respect you, the ones who see your worth, will still be there when you stop bending over backwards. If you feel like your niceness is costing you your identity, your voice, your peace, then it's time to step back and reevaluate. Who are you trying to please? And what are you losing in the process? If being nice means abandoning yourself, then it's no longer kindness. It's self-betrayal. You owe it to yourself to stop living in fear of being disliked. You were not put on this earth to be agreeable at the expense of your own soul. You were not made to be everyone's emotional cushion, problem solver, or convenience. Harold eventually learned this the hard way. After a health scare that landed him in the hospital, he finally realized that no one was coming to save him. The people he always showed up for, most didn't even check in. That's when he understood. If he didn't start valuing himself, no one else would. So he changed, slowly. He started saying no. He started putting his needs on the calendar. He started honoring his own time. And you know what? Some people got upset, but the right people respected it. And more importantly, he started respecting himself. Niceness becomes a weakness the moment you lose yourself in it. Don't let that be your story. Be kind, but never at the cost of your dignity. Be generous, but never with your self-worth. 2. The weight of saying no. Saying the word no seems so simple, doesn't it? It's just 2 letters, 1 syllable. And yet for so many people, it's one of the heaviest things they'll ever try to lift. Not because they're incapable, but because the guilt attached to that word weighs more than most people realize. When you've spent your life trying to be agreeable, no feels like a betrayal. It feels like letting people down, disappointing them, or causing pain. And if your identity is tied to being the reliable one, the helpful one, the yes person, then saying no can feel like you're tearing down the very image you've built. But here's the truth that no one tells you. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, You're saying no to something that could fulfill you. Every agreement made from guilt is a quiet denial of your own needs, and over time, that denial accumulates into resentment. Let's go back to Harold for a moment. His inability to say no wasn't rooted in generosity, it was rooted in fear. He feared rejection. He feared being seen as selfish. He feared that the people in his life would withdraw their affection if he didn't always show up the way they expected. So he kept showing up, even when it broke him. One night, after helping a friend move all day and then staying up late to finish work for a colleague, Harold sat in his kitchen in silence. His phone buzzed with yet another favor, and he physically felt sick. That moment wasn't about being overwhelmed. It was about the internal war between who he wanted to be and who he had trained himself to be. That night, he didn't respond. He didn't say yes. He didn't even say no. He just went to bed, and the world didn't end. But inside him, something shifted. The silence was terrifying at first, but it was also the most peace he had felt in months. Many of us were raised to believe that saying no is rude or inconsiderate. But in reality, boundaries are an act of respect, not just for yourself, but for others. When you are clear and honest about what you can and cannot give, you give others the opportunity to deal with reality instead of assumptions. Some people will call you selfish when you start saying no. Let them. That's not your burden to carry. What they're really saying is that they preferred the version of you that was more convenient. And if your worth is tied to convenience, then you were never being loved for who you are, only for what you do. Understand this. No is not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of yourself. It's a declaration that your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth are not infinite. You are not obligated to say yes just to avoid discomfort. True relationships, healthy, respectful, genuine ones, can handle a boundary. If someone only values you when you're compliant, then they never valued you in the first place. And every time you say yes to keep the peace, you are choosing temporary harmony over long-term integrity. The weight of saying no often feels unbearable because we've never practiced it. It's like a muscle, weak from neglect. But the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And eventually, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. The key is learning to say no without guilt, shame, or apology. You don't need a 5-paragraph explanation. You don't need to overcompensate. A simple, "No, I can't," or "That doesn't work for me," is enough. And if someone pushes back, that's on them, not you. There will be moments when you still feel the pull to say yes. You'll hear the disappointment in someone's voice. You'll feel the awkward silence. But if you hold your ground, if you stay true to what you know is right for you, something beautiful happens. You start building trust with yourself. And that's the relationship that matters most, the one you have with yourself. If you constantly abandon your needs for others, you're telling yourself that your boundaries don't matter, and over time, that message erodes your self-worth. When Harold finally learned to say no without apology, everything changed. Not overnight. But slowly people began to respect his time. Some drifted away, and he let them. Others adapted and appreciated his honesty. But more than anything, Harold began to breathe again. You deserve that too. You deserve to wake up without a weight on your chest. You deserve a life where your time is yours. And it all starts with 2 letters. No. 3. Stop apologizing for existing. How often do you say the word sorry in a day for bumping into someone, for speaking up, for asking a question, for needing help, for taking up space? If you're someone who constantly apologizes, not because you've done something wrong, but because you exist, you're not alone. And that's exactly the problem. We've been conditioned, especially if we were raised in environments where peace was prized above honesty, to believe that our needs, our voices, and even our presence are an inconvenience. So we start apologizing as a reflex, as if we're trying to earn our right to be here. But what does that do to your sense of self over time? What does it mean when your go-to phrase is, "Sorry to bother you," or "Sorry if this is a stupid question," or "Sorry, I just thought"? It teaches your brain and the world that you don't believe you have the right to exist without permission. This pattern isn't politeness, it's self-erasure in disguise. Because while manners are about respect, chronic apologizing is about self-doubt. It's the unspoken belief that other people's comfort is more important than your authenticity, that keeping the peace matters more than being heard. Let's be clear, there are moments where a genuine apology is powerful. If you hurt someone, if you overstepped, if you were wrong, apologize with sincerity. But don't confuse being accountable with being submissive. You are not wrong for existing. You are not wrong for needing, asking, feeling, or simply showing up. I once knew a woman who apologized before every sentence. She'd raise her hand in meetings with, "Sorry if this is off topic," or "Sorry, but I just thought maybe." And she was brilliant, insightful, sharp. But no one ever took her seriously because she never sounded like she took herself seriously. People reflect back the energy you bring. If you present yourself as a disturbance, they will treat you like one. If you act as though your words are optional background noise, others will tune you out. But when you speak with clarity and conviction, when you own your space without apology, people pay attention. It's time to stop saying sorry for things that don't require forgiveness. Stop apologizing for being late when you were caught in traffic. Say, "Thank you for waiting." Stop apologizing for asking for what you need. State it with confidence. Stop apologizing for feeling. Acknowledge it without shame. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your sense of worth. And when you're constantly shrinking yourself to make others more comfortable, you send a message to the world. I don't believe I deserve to be here. And whether they realize it or not, they'll treat you accordingly. Owning your presence is not arrogance, it's self-respect. You have the right to take up space in a room, to ask for clarification, to disagree respectfully, to say what you need without softening your voice. Your needs are not a burden. Your ideas are not interruptions. Your presence is not a problem. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. The next time you catch yourself about to apologize for something that isn't your fault, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really saying sorry for? Am I actually sorry, or am I just afraid of being seen? Replace the apology with ownership. Instead of, "Sorry I'm talking so much," try, "Thanks for listening. I had a lot on my mind." Instead of, "Sorry for the rant," try, "I appreciate you letting me share." These small shifts reinforce that your voice matters, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop apologizing for existing, you give others permission to do the same. You model what self-respect looks like. You teach the people around you that humility and confidence can coexist, that it's possible to be kind without shrinking. Harold once told me that the hardest part of his transformation wasn't saying no. It was learning to speak without apology. At first he felt rude, arrogant, like he was breaking some unspoken rule. But over time, he realized that the world adjusts to your energy, and when his energy changed, so did his reality. People began to listen when he spoke, not because he yelled, not because he demanded, but because he carried himself like someone who belonged. And that shift started the moment he stopped asking for permission just to be himself. You are not too much. You are not a nuisance. You are not an inconvenience. You are a person with needs, desires, and boundaries, and you do not need to apologize for that. Speak clearly, stand tall, take up space, because you're already worthy of being here. You always were. 4. Avoiding conflict is not peace. Many people believe that avoiding conflict is a sign of emotional maturity, that staying quiet, keeping the peace and letting things slide is the noble thing to do. But there's a dangerous misunderstanding at the heart of that belief, because avoiding conflict isn't peace, it's surrender in disguise. Avoidance may seem like calm on the surface, but underneath, it's often bubbling with resentment, anxiety, and self-denial. When you keep swallowing your truth to avoid friction, you're not choosing peace, you're choosing silence, and silence in the face of disrespect slowly corrodes your self-worth. Let me ask you this: how many times have you walked away from a conversation thinking, I should have said something? How often have you let a comment slide, let a boundary be crossed, let someone dismiss you just to keep things comfortable? You weren't preserving harmony, you were sacrificing your dignity. Conflict is not inherently negative. In fact, in many cases, it's necessary for growth. Honest disagreements are how we learn about each other's values, needs, and limits. The discomfort that comes with conflict is the price of truth, and truth is the foundation of real relationships. But too often, people pleasers and chronic nice individuals avoid conflict like it's fire. They fear that standing up for themselves will make others angry, uncomfortable, or distant. They tell themselves, it's not a big deal, or I'll just let it go. But what they're really doing is training others to ignore their boundaries. Imagine a man named Victor, who always avoided conflict. At work, he let his teammates take credit for his ideas. At home, he let his partner make all the decisions, even when he disagreed. With friends, he laughed off offensive jokes just to avoid awkward moments. On the outside, Victor was agreeable and easygoing, but inside, he was simmering. Years of silence turned into bitterness. He didn't feel seen. He didn't feel respected. And the truth is, he wasn't respected, because he never demanded to be. Not through aggression, but through the simple act of speaking up. His silence had communicated to everyone around him. You can cross my boundaries, and I won't stop you. Real peace requires effort. It requires confrontation, not the kind that's about attacking or humiliating others, but the kind that says, I respect myself enough to speak. It's uncomfortable. It can be messy, but it's worth it, because every time you stand up for yourself, you strengthen your internal foundation. Avoiding conflict is often tied to a fear of rejection. You fear that people will leave if you disagree, if you push back, if you show that you're not endlessly flexible. But here's the truth. If someone only stays in your life because you never challenge them, that relationship was never built on love. It was built on compliance. When you assert yourself, some people will resist, some may even leave. But what you'll find is this: the people who stay, the people who truly care, will adjust. They'll listen. They'll meet you with respect, because healthy people value clarity, they value honesty, and they value boundaries. It's important to reframe what conflict actually is. It's not war, it's not chaos, it's communication. It's saying, I matter enough to have a voice, and it doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. A calm, clear boundary is stronger than 100 silent sacrifices. Victor eventually reached a breaking point. After yet another promotion passed him by and another friend crossed a line, he finally realized he wasn't protecting peace, he was enabling disrespect. He made the decision to stop swallowing his thoughts. It wasn't easy. The first few conversations were awkward. Some relationships changed. But for the first time in his life, Victor felt aligned. Because peace without self-respect isn't peace, it's paralysis. It's a stillness that rots instead of heals. True peace is active. It's a boundary held with love. It's a truth spoken with calm conviction. It's the courage to be disliked, if that's the price of living honestly. You don't have to choose between being kind and being assertive. You can be both. You can challenge someone's behavior without attacking their character. You can speak up without being cruel. And you can demand respect without raising your voice. If you've been avoiding conflict for years, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. That's okay. Growth always does. But every time you hold your ground, every time you speak, when you used to stay quiet, you're rebuilding your relationship with yourself. You are not here to live in fear of confrontation. You are here to live in alignment with your truth. And sometimes that truth will challenge people. Let it, because the people who love the real you will rise to meet you, and those who don't, they were only in love with your silence. 5. Approval is not respect. At first glance, wanting to be liked doesn't seem like a bad thing. After all, we're social creatures. We crave connection, inclusion, and community. But when the desire to be liked turns into a need to be liked by everyone, you begin trading pieces of yourself for approval, and that trade is never worth it. The pursuit of universal approval is a trap, a quiet, seductive one. It tells you that if you just adjust a little more, smile a little wider, stay a little quieter, agree a little more often, you'll finally feel accepted. You'll finally be safe. But the truth is, you lose yourself one small compromise at a time. Let me tell you about Ted. Ted was charming, kind, and always agreeable. At work, he was the guy who kept the peace, laughed at the boss's bad jokes, and never challenged poor decisions. In relationships, he avoided difficult conversations, always deferring to others to keep things light and conflict-free. He was liked by everyone, but he was known by no one. You see, Ted had mastered the art of social camouflage. He could blend into any group, echo the opinions in the room, and make others feel comfortable. But deep down, he was hollow. He didn't know what he truly believed, wanted, or valued, because he had spent his whole life adapting to earn approval. This is the hidden cost of people-pleasing. You become disconnected from yourself. When you're constantly editing your personality to avoid discomfort, disagreement, or disapproval, your identity becomes a patchwork of other people's expectations. And here's the harsh truth. No matter how agreeable you are, not everyone will like you. It doesn't matter how carefully you curate your behavior, how selfless you are, or how much you twist yourself into knots to keep everyone happy. Someone will still find a reason to criticize you. And when that happens, all your efforts will feel like a waste. Because they are. Seeking universal approval is a game with no finish line. It will leave you exhausted, anxious, and unfulfilled. You'll smile on the outside while quietly feeling resentful inside. Resentful that you're giving so much and still not feeling seen or appreciated for who you really are. Letting go of that need is hard. It requires facing the fear that not everyone will like the real you. But it also opens the door to something far more valuable: authenticity. And with authenticity comes real connection. Because when you show up as you truly are, you give others permission to do the same. Being respected for your truth is better than being liked for your mask. When you speak honestly, act with integrity, and hold firm to your values, even when it's inconvenient, you may lose some people. But the ones who remain will be the ones who truly see you. And those relationships will be deeper, stronger, and far more fulfilling. The approval seeker asks, what do they want me to be? The self-respecting individual asks, who am I, and how can I express that clearly and confidently? It's the difference between performance and presence. One is exhausting, the other is liberating. Letting go of approval doesn't mean you become rude or indifferent. It means you stop abandoning yourself to earn someone else's smile. It means learning to tolerate the discomfort of not being understood or liked by everyone, and choosing to stay grounded in your values. Anyway, Ted's turning point came when a close friend told him, "You're always so agreeable, I don't actually know what you believe." It hit him like a brick. He had spent so long being agreeable, he had disappeared. From that day forward, he started being more honest, not aggressive, not dramatic, just real. At first, people were surprised, some pulled away, but others leaned in, curious to finally meet the real Ted. And in those new conversations, he found something he had never known: mutual respect rooted in truth, not performance. Every time you say what you actually mean, you take back a little piece of yourself. Every time you express a boundary, a preference, or an honest opinion, you reinforce the message, "I am worthy as I am." And every time you resist the urge to seek universal approval, you give yourself the gift of freedom. Not everyone will like you. That's not a flaw, it's a fact of life. And when you accept it, you'll finally be free to live, speak, and love without fear. Approval is fleeting. Authenticity is forever. Being kind is a gift, but being too nice is a wound that keeps bleeding. If you've been shrinking, silencing, or sacrificing your peace to be accepted, now is the time to stop. You were not born to be everyone's backup plan. You were not created to be walked over, overlooked, or tolerated. You are here to take up space, to live with dignity, and to speak with authority. Set the boundary, say the hard no, defend your peace. The world may not applaud, but your soul will thank you. If this message hit home, subscribe for more and share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. Until next time, be kind, but never at your own expense.